Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Intuit Developer Friday morning Hangout for July 12th, 2017. I'm your host, David Leary. I am the Intuit Small Business Ecosystem Evangelist. You can follow me on Twitter at David Leary. Today we have three guests. All three of these guests have apps on apps.com, but they're just not regular apps on apps.com. They have apps that maybe a lot of you developers can use or a lot of you developers can learn from. They're all about subscription billing, subscription revenue, subscription revenue-based metrics, subscription revenue recognition for your gap and your compliance type reporting. So without further ado, we're going to jump in and have these guys, I'll introduce these guys very, very soon. So we have Tim McCormick, he's the CEO of SAS Optics. We have Rob Farmer, he is the CEO of Prorata. And we have Scott Thornburn, he's the VP Marketing and Product Management at Fusebill. Before we just jump in, I have a couple just announcements to make quickly. As you know, we are doing the $100,000 Small Business App Showdown again. Please go to smallbizappshowdown.com. We're down to the last 30 days to enter. You need to get your app live on apps.com. If you haven't submitted for the tech review yet and you're ready, there's still time. I think you can still make the deadline. So go to smallbizappshowdown.com and you can join the contest and make sure you're ready for that. The next announcement, again, QuickBooks Connect is coming up in November. So, I'm sorry, and yes, it's in November, and it's going to be the 15th through the 17th in San Jose. And we're actually doing the hackathon the weekend before. So plan to spend an entire week there at QuickBooks Connect, doing the hackathon, coming to the event, meeting all the accountants. It should be a lot of fun. And I think we're going to have some website updates coming soon where I think we're going to start announcing some of the main keynote speakers. So check out QuickBooksConnect.com for that. And then, as always, you can always go to developer.intuit.com/hub/events and see all the upcoming Hangouts and other events that we may have going on, as just like the one today. So without further ado, I'm going to kill my slide sharing here. Stop sharing. Close that and get it out of the way. Got it. So Scott, Tim, Rob, I think we'll just go in alphabetical order here since it's an RST. And I'll let you introduce yourself. I'll let you tell us a little bit about your company and kind of what your app does and kind of your experience with SaaS and the marketplace in general and your point of view on things. And then after that, we'll jump into some of the questions. So Rob, go ahead.
Sure. So I'm Rob Farmer, founder of Prorata. We help SaaS companies with revenue recognition as well as SaaS reporting. So we do this by processing transactions such as invoices and sales receipts that are already in your QuickBooks Online account. We then generate revenue schedules and push journal entries back into QuickBooks to recognize that revenue on an accrual basis. So we also have dashboards and reports, again, around those SaaS metrics and reporting features.
Got it. And then, Rob, what did you do before you started this? Were you in the SaaS space already?
So I've always worked in SaaS companies. I've worked in, had other SaaS startups. My background is in software development, so always worked in SaaS at SaaS companies in one form or another.
Okay, got it. Great, thank you. And Scott, do you want to introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about Fusebill? You're on mute, Scott, so it might take a second. It looks like Scott might have froze up. Scott, are you there? All right. Tim, let's skip Scott for a second. I'll let you jump in here.
Okay, great. Thanks for having me, Dave. SAS Optics has a modern subscription management platform for growth stage B2B SaaS and subscription-based businesses. We automate the entire order to renewal process, and we provide all the SaaS metrics and analytics you need to manage and grow your business. Basic analytics such as MRR and ARR through to churn and retention analysis, customer lifetime value, and all the cohorts you need to look at the performance of different sectors in your business. It's all tightly integrated with QuickBooks Online as well as QuickBooks Desktop. And we have really an all-in-one package at affordable prices, no user-based fees or transaction-based fees, and you can be operational in about 2 weeks.
Got it. Thank you very much. And it looks like Scott is back here. I'll unmute him. Hey, Scott, are you there? All right, and then Tim, just before Scott jumps on, what was your background before you were at SAS Optics?
Sure. Several SaaS businesses. I spent about 10 years in information security, moved on into other SaaS businesses like energy management. First business was acquired by IBM in 2006, and the second was acquired by Cisco in 2013. So been in the software business quite a long time, for about 30 years, and just enjoying this ride here at SAS Optics.
Got it. Thank you. And Scott, we made it back.
I made it back. Sorry about that. We had a fire drill, believe it or not, and I went to make sure that we got that cut off. So
like a literal fire drill?
A literal fire drill, not a business fire drill.
Wow. That's exciting. I'm glad you're safe and that you're back. So yeah, we kind of skipped you for a second there, but can you definitely introduce yourself and tell us a little about Fusebill? I know technically speaking, Fusebill's not on apps.com yet, but what, another couple days, any day now, right. It's getting very close to the finish line.
Yeah, that's right. So I'm Scott. I'm the VP of Product Management and Marketing here, and a cloud-based subscription billing and management application. We help customers automate the complexities around invoicing and collections for a subscription-based business. And as you say, does have a direct integration with QuickBooks, and it allows for all of the power within Fusebill to fully automate your QuickBooks backend processes.
Got it. Great. Thank you very much, guys. Let's just jump in. Again, any of you panelists that are, any of you attendees that want to ask questions to the panel all about your SaaS revenue, your SaaS billing, etc., please use the Q&A panel. I will get to those as we go along. If not, you can wait till the end, and we should open the floor up to questions at the end. So I'm not sure any of you who wants to jump in and take this one, but maybe Tim, maybe this would be a good one for you. Can you maybe explain some of the different ways to do subscription billing and maybe some of the advantages and disadvantages of both?
Sure. Sure. Thanks, David. I think the majority of what we see in our customer base is really customers using spreadsheets to manage this process. Since they're managing things like contract ledgers, invoice schedules, revenue recognition, deferred revenue, they're all doing this in a manual approach typically. And or they're using other types of products like Stripe or Recurly if you're a credit card monthly business. But what seems to happen is they evolve along the way, and they start doing annual agreements or multi-year agreements, and they figure out they can't take credit cards because the transaction fees are too high, and you kind of get you have a need to add another system to handle invoicing there. So we deal with getting all of those manual processes, move them out of the way, automate, but provide the flexibility for growth over time, allowing you to exchange all that information with QuickBooks, and as you grow, continue that progression.
Got it. And so, and this may be just for all the panelists. So if I'm a small business and I'm doing my subscription billing, so I could do it by year, I could do it by month. I've seen some people starting to do kind of these token models where you kind of pay. It's almost like buying your text message package from the cell phone companies years ago. You buy 100 text messages. If you don't use them, it rolls on to the next month. So like, is there any that like, is there any then that you're seeing are like much more outstanding, or is it really depending on the fit on the customer base, why you choose one over another one? And if you could jump in on.
Yeah, I think in our experience, the really important thing is to have the flexibility to be able to serve up all different kinds of ways that customers can engage with you and pay with you. The most common one that we see is sort of that monthly charge, and we're seeing more and more companies mix in the monthly fee with other variables like, as you say, usage, consumption, and they're doing that in order to maximize the revenue base, because we're all looking to do the same in a SaaS model.
That's interesting. I know. I was thinking about I got in a discussion yesterday about the token model, right? And I was kind of thinking about. I look at Audible, and so I subscribe to Audible. I do not buy an audiobook every single month, right? And if I was losing that money every single month, if it wasn't on a token model, I probably would have canceled my subscription already. But now my subscription I've had for 4 years, right? And I just kind of build up those tokens. And then eventually I'm like, oh, maybe I'm going on vacation. I buy 4 audiobooks all at once, right? So it's interesting now the different models give you from a customer motivation, depending on how you're subscribed. It's kind of interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So Rob, have you kind of seen your experience with SaaS? Like, have you seen any, there's there best practices for like pricing models? Like, is it good to have a 3-tiered pricing model? Is it good to just have a 1? Is it good to like bundle some of the services? What have you kind of seen as far as best practices?
Sure. I mean, I think most companies try to, lessen the number of tiers. It just makes it easier for the customer to kind of figure out where they're going to fall within that pricing tier. But what I see with bundling a lot is less bundling services and just having multiple elements. So we see companies that aren't just strictly software companies. Maybe they provide services, implementation fees, maybe consulting hours. So for us, we see a lot of companies bundling all of that into one price. But from our perspective, from revenue recognition, it's important to kind of separate those out into different elements and make sure you're reporting on that a little bit differently depending on what you're doing for your customer.
So if I had if I'm understanding you correctly, like I have to be aware if I'm doing a monthly subscription, $30 a month, but then I'm doing some sort of weird add-on. Weird's not the right word, but I have some add-on. I can't really track that revenue the same way. I got to be really conscious on how I'm doing those and doing that tracking across it.
Right. So if it's consulting hours, typically you'll recognize that revenue and when you actually provided that service. Whereas if it's, say, an annual subscription agreement, you kind of spread that out over 12 months.
Got it. So obviously I started the focus of this, right, is SaaS-based software companies. Everybody's trying to do software as a subscription, right? But now I'm starting to see accountants move to this model, right, and provide services this way. I think a car wash got my wife on that model, right? We're paying $20 a month for unlimited car washes. What are some of you guys have all have customers in this space? Like, what are some of the other cases you guys have seen that are not SaaS software companies that are using this model for their customer bases?
Yeah, good question. I'll take that. I mean, a couple of examples in our customer base is we have a pet food of the month club, that kind of deal, kind of like Dollar Shave Club. But there's multiple, there are these box companies that are coming out that provide a service of monthly clothing or what have you. We're seeing a lot of that come in, but the low-hanging fruit in the market, of course, is still SaaS businesses. We see that the quantity growing, on a weekly, monthly basis. There's a new SaaS business being created, and while the incubators and accelerators around the country and the world, they're churning them out by the hundreds on a monthly basis.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, every week is another 5 small business SaaS apps I have to go look at or talk to. Maybe it's more than that. Yes, it is. It's a little bit of an accelerated pace, that's for sure. What about you, Scott? Have you seen any interesting uses of SaaS pricing and SaaS business models with non-software companies?
He's muted.
Yeah, unmute you. There you go. Whoops.
How's that? Good?
That's good. Perfect.
Yeah, sure. We are. So we get all kinds of subscription-based customers that come to us, and as Tim said, we find that the SaaS market is definitely the low-hanging fruit for us as well. There's all kinds of momentum there, but we have other customers. We have Churchill Downs, for example, that uses us for a subscription. They have subscribers that look to share horse lineage for track betting, and they have a few different models that they use to build people for their subscriptions. The key, I think, really is to have the flexibility to test some different models, see what resonates with the different customers in your customer base, and be able to keep them satisfied. there really is a strong relation between the billing experience and customer satisfaction. So you've got to be able to serve up a good variety of models and options.
Got it. And I know, Rob, you're in Atlanta, and I know you're really close to that Atlanta Tech Village, where it's just full of tech SaaS startups. So I'm sure you've seen all of those and all their models. But have you come across anybody else like in your customer base that just isn't SaaS, like somebody that's doing something kind of interesting, creative using the SaaS pricing?
Not SaaS pricing, but similar. We have like memberships, so nonprofit like membership to the zoo, or here in Atlanta, like the botanical garden or something like that. It's a yearly. We have customers that it's a yearly membership that they've got to recognize that revenue over time. Down the street from us, you already mentioned it, but we see a lot of flat rate accounting firms. So instead of billing by the hour, it's choose a package and we do X, Y, and Z for you for a certain price. Even down to their sales model, they're using a lot of the same sales models that SaaS companies are in developing their client base. Interesting.
That's great. Yeah, as the accountants are moving to fixed fee pricing, they want to get their clients definitely on those subscription models and not do that hourly billing.
Right.
It's definitely true. So this is kind of a specific question, maybe. Like, how should people like handling discounts? Like, is that something like you offer up at the time of the subscription, and it goes? Do you record that once, just off the top? Do you have to defer that off every month? Do you do it after the fact as a refund? Like, what are some of the pluses and minuses on giving customers discounts?
Yeah, when you look at discounts, this is a tricky topic, and you really need to kind of understand how you're going to handle discounts before you implement any kind of discounting policy. In our experience, as a general rule, you never want to apply a discount after a refund after the fact. What you really want to do is have the flexibility to discount any way you want, ways that will resonate with your prospects, while still taking into consideration all of the generally accepted accounting principle of best practices for rev recognition, right? That's the key. It really is a must, or you're going to find yourself down an administrative rabbit hole going back through months and months of spreadsheets to properly recognize your revenue. So the discounts can really gum up the works if you don't have a smooth, automated system and well understood discount policy.
So it's you make sure you have a plan before you start offering those.
Absolutely.
Don't go into it blind.
Yeah, I think Scott is right on the mark. I mean, I think they differ between B2C and B2B, but we'd recommend doing the discounting up front and staying away from refunds and credit memos and that whole process, which is just laden with overhead after the fact, and how it relates to revenue recognition rules. You kind of create a little nightmare for yourself. So definitely take the discounting up front. You may create another issue with tracking, VSOE with discounting across the board, but that's a complexity that we can handle for sure.
I definitely made a note, like a future question here, talk about kind of this alphabet soup, but I think you just dropped one, Tim. You said VSOE. Can you?
Yeah, really has to do with discounting and how you're discounting. If you always discount your services, for example, and not your product, it's really goes against general accounting principles. So you need to have a method of reallocating those revenues equitably across your product portfolio. So you can't cherry pick and just discount your implementation services and not touch your software subscription, which is the key driver of your recurring revenue. So VSOE is all about tracking that and making sure that you are truing up your revenues across your portfolio.
Got it. Now I don't. I know some of you handle the actual subscription billing for people, right? Some of your apps do, and so feel free to jump into this or don't jump into it if it's not your ball wax. But I think even with all of you running your own SaaS companies, maybe you have experience of this. So it's great, right? Everybody subscribes to your app, things are running. you're charging them every month, but I imagine some percentage of your customers every single month have credit cards that fail, get declined, have expiration dates that expire. Like, it's got to be a headache. Actually, all developers have to be suffering through, and it probably gets worse, right? Because as you're more successful, you just have that many more customers who have credit cards that something goes wrong with their credit card. Is there best practices? Like, how do you manage that?
I think that one's best answered probably by Scott, since they actually have the ability to take credit cards. We partner with folks like Recurly and Stripe to handle that. Since we're B2B only, we typically have a minority of our customer revenue coming from credit cards. So I'm sure that Scott has some better answers to those questions.
Sure. Well, let me see if I can live up to Tim's expectations.
I don't think there's a silver bullet, though. I think I know fairly well.
What I would do, though, is, David, I'd agree with you. So that is a problem, and we've got at Fusebill, we've got a mix of B2B and B2C type customers. Most subscription billing systems today come with a full dunning management module. And dunning management is that process by which you try to collect a payment on a failed process, and these modules allow for the complete automation of credit card retries based on some selected interval that you choose, and that process should maximize your successful collection rate. The dunning module would automatically email customers letting them know that their cards have failed, or ideally, and you can set these sorts of rules in our dunning management module. You can notify customers when their credit card is about to expire.
Okay.
You really hope to mitigate that issue by being proactive, tracking the expiration dates, and allowing customers to go in and update their billing information, their credit card information through a self-service portal. And it kind of gets back to that, that notion that customer satisfaction really is tied quite heavily to the billing process. If you think about the billing process being a really regular touch point where you're asking your customers to open their pocketbook every time, it's important that you can provide them with a positive experience, and letting them self-manage that way is really important in our experience.
Yeah, I can see that, because I know that every time I have to take the time to type in the credit card number, like, you're always at that time, like, is this software app worth it? Is it not worth it? Am I paying for it? Is it worth the value? So if the actual credit card processing part is a headache, all of a sudden you're gonna be like, oh, this whole thing's a nightmare, and you're just gonna leave. So I could definitely see the impact of not having that good process. Hey, Rob, is there any with credit cards expiring or not going through, how does that impact like revenue recognition and that type of stuff?
So as far as revenue, like if it's a monthly subscription, technically if the customer is still using the software, you're kind of supposed to almost recognize that. Now, if you are doing something monthly, maybe you're shutting them out of the application, so you're not giving them actual access to that system. But I think it's just a matter of, if that credit card charge fails, you need to get that the card charged or cut off their account.
So if I'm hearing you correctly, so if they keep using your app, you have to recognize that as revenue, but then you kind of basically have this like collections.
Right. It's like unbilled revenue.
Unbilled revenue. Okay.
Yeah. So hopefully you cut that off before it happens, because that can be kind of a nightmare to deal with.
All right. So it's I think all you SaaS developers need to be aware of, like, when make sure you have the code for that, right, to actually turn off your app. Because I could see from a management standpoint or a revenue standpoint and accounting standpoint that being a headache to deal with. It's good to know. Thanks, Rob.
Yep.
So what about, I think we talked about a little bit on discounts, but this kind of also, what about when people are finally done with their service? Now they're going to cancel their subscription, or their big complaint, and you have to do a refund, like, who knows, for whatever reason, right? Your customer service department might need to do a refund of the entire fees you've charged that customer. How does that impact things?
So I think for revenue recognition, it's something that you're going to have to go back and re-report, or even kind of true up your revenue. So if someone at the end of a subscription, you've recognized revenue, say for a year, and for whatever reason at the end of that year you're issuing a refund, you've got to go back and readjust that revenue for the entire year to make sure that you're not overstating revenue for prior periods.
Makes sense. Tim or Scott, you guys have anything to add on cancellations?
Yeah, the only thing I would add is, what's important is making sure your processes are in sync with your product and finance. Nothing's worse than having a customer cancel and then you bill them, the next month. We've seen that happen quite a bit. Second, with canceled versus expired transactions, be sure you're discerning between the two. It will affect the integrity of your churn and your retention rates. A canceled customer is a customer that calls in and cancels a contract. And an expired transaction is one that really hasn't renewed yet, whether it's a credit card delay or just a delay in the customer. So these will affect your churn rates, and you want to be sure, and obviously for your churn analysis, you want to be sure you're capturing why your customers are canceling, obviously, so you can do some detailed analysis.
Got it. Great. Yeah, now you said the word churn. I think let's start jumping into, what type of metrics and reporting that people should be doing with their SaaS apps. And it doesn't have to be just the revenue ones, I think, in general. But and it's an alphabet soup. I know there's AAR, CLTV, MMR, churn, and Tim, you mentioned another one. So yeah, I'd like to, if people are watching this, if they have to write down, here's the 5 things you should be watching, what are those 5, right? What are you guys going to suggest? If you suggest, here's the 2 numbers you should watch. So it's collectively, we have 6, right? So throw them out there. What's some metrics people should be watching?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said 5. So the 5 that I do watch is my MRR, so your monthly recurring revenue, your annual recurring revenue. As a marketing guy, I care a lot about my my customer acquisition cost and how long it takes to pay back that customer acquisition cost. Your customer lifetime value, and then your churn. So if I'm managing those metrics, to me those are the top 5 for a SaaS company.
Got it.
Yeah.
Tim or Rob, why don't you jump in next?
I couldn't agree more. You have your basics that you need to master, and the MRR AR momentum waterfall is really probably the most important, and understanding by category how your business performance is trending. So looking at your opening ARR or MRR, how much is new, how much is lost, how much is expanded, how much is contracted. Because if you're only looking at the opening and closing, you're not seeing the true trends in your business. Your overall revenue could be, expanding, but you might be losing more and more on a monthly basis, and it's shrouded by the fact that your closing amount keeps going up. So you need to really understand that, and then to build on top of that, you have your churn. You need to really understand that. You need both of those before you can start doing your customer lifetime value, of course. The cost to acquire customer, very, very important to look at those ratios between customer lifetime value and CAC. And then finally, the most advanced portion of that is cohort analysis. Let's really look into the trends by product line or by segment or by time, or you can even do it by sales rep or customer success rep or by marketing campaign, for example. Let's look in to see is certain groups of customers performing better than others so that you can quickly adjust your business and correct.
Got it.
And then I'll add one more. Just I completely agree with Scott and Tim. Those are the most important ones. But also your client usage. So try to head off that churn. Make sure your users are you actively using your application and are happy, so that you can address any concerns before they have a chance to cancel.
So that client usage is almost a leading indicator.
Exactly.
Got it. Oh, that's a good one. So kind of like building off of this, so obviously there's a lot of things to track. Like how do you, like you guys obviously have your own SaaS businesses. How do you guys manage this? Is there some magic app that just tracks all this for you? Or did you guys build your own custom dashboards using an off-the-shelf dashboard? Like what are some tools to track all these metrics that you guys have seen out there that work well?
Well, we use our own product, SAS Optics.
Okay.
And I think everybody probably has the same answer, not SAS Optics, but their own. But of course, we're sitting on top of all the transactions. We have, custom dashboards you can build. The reporting is completely plug and play out of the box. And I have it up over on my screen over here. The the MRR and the ARR reports, looking at every day what the performance looks like. So as a byproduct of booking orders, creating customers and contracts and revenue records and invoice schedules and sending the invoices out and collecting payment, we're on top of everything moving from a revenue standpoint. And then you can report all those different metrics and analytics off of that data on a on-demand, real-time basis.
Got it. What about Scott? What about you, Rob? Either one of you guys? Do you guys have an in-house system, or coincidentally, does your app do it? Like, I actually did not know for sure that SAS Optics did that. That's when I'm asked that question, but
yeah, we use our own app for that. We have dashboards and reports. So we use our own app to bill our clients. Since we're not a billing platform, we use a combination of both QuickBooks and Stripe to charge our customers. And then we just pull that information in, kind of crunch those numbers, and we're able to run those same reports.
Got it.
Yeah, and I'm in the same boat as Tim. We use our own application to track all those things and identify trends so that we can jump on them in real time if we need to.
Yeah, and then just I know, Scott, before you mentioned about how like you as being a marketing guy like to watch some of your marketing channel. Now, are you feeding that data back in, or is that data kind of in its own dashboard somewhere else? Like, oh, we did this Facebook campaign, it converted to this.
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So we have a number of different core business applications here at Fusebill, and from a marketing perspective, I actually use another dashboard application to track all my marketing apps, marketing key metrics. So I don't use Fusebill for that. I use a company called Clipfolio. They're great. Somebody's looking for kind of a multi-purpose dashboarding solution. That's a good one that I was working on.
Cool.
Another good Canadian company.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, the way we link those is through our Salesforce integration, David, where we're pulling down off of the opportunity to create the orders. We're pulling down some high-level marketing information we can use to kind of cut our analytics by. So we can do it by lead source or by campaign, for example. So I can, essentially run a cohort by a marketing campaign if I wanted to. So we can bring in a bunch of different attributes that are housed in Salesforce to cut those different analytic reports by.
So you guys, I mean, essentially, it sounds like you guys are using other tools too, but then you're doing a little custom pipe building somewhere in there. So there's really no magic one tool, because everybody's always looking for this magic tool, and it's just stuff. That's opportunity for some of you developers out there. If you want to build another app, yeah, there's an opportunity here, guys. I know we kind of obviously talked about these metrics, all the metrics, et cetera. Is there anything that's like, dare I say gap? Like, are there certain metrics or certain things you need to, and maybe Rob, you're kind of the expert on this because I think you're really just about revenue recognition. Like, are there certain things I should be tracking or watching or knowing about and be aware of with gap type requirements?
Yeah, and I'll just mention that most of the metrics we've talked about, ARR, MRR, basically every metric none of that is really has anything to do with GAAP. GAAP is more of how much revenue should you recognize every month. So my advice would be to make sure, number one, that you're if you're required to do it, get off of cash and move to accrual basis, but also get some guidance from someone who specializes in revenue recognition to figure out how you should be reporting on that revenue. We come across people who are, still on cash basis. We've come across people who, when they set up QuickBooks, just because they chose accrual during the setup process, they thought they were doing everything on an accrual basis. So it's just, get some help, some professional help, and make sure you're doing everything correctly.
Got it. So all those other metrics and reports that everybody spoke about, those are more to actually run your business. They're managerial decision-making tools, and but revenue rec and the GAAP stuff is more legal requirements.
Right.
Legal's the
it's more of a standard, because if you look at something like customer acquisition cost and even churn, people define that in different ways for different businesses. But
revenue rec's pretty clearly defined from GAAP, and it's pretty standard across the board.
Exactly.
Yep. Got it. That's very helpful.
Yep.
Trying to poke around and jump around some of these questions I have here. This is actually could be an interesting one before we start getting into the opening the floor up to some questions, if anybody has questions. So any of you, the attendees that are watching, please use the Q&A panel to ask any questions you'd like. What are some of assumptions, myths, mistakes that SaaS apps are making out there? When it comes to their subscription revenue or billing, or anything you're seeing that's related to the space around the charging of customers, reporting on it, tracking it.
Well, from my perspective.
Well,
Scott, you're a little on the quiet side. You might have to bump up your.
How's that?
That's better.
All right, there we go. So I guess I would say that I think people often don't realize, especially when they're starting out, how fragile their subscription revenue.
Got it. Kind of it's almost, I hardly hear you at all. I'm gonna have to move it closer or adjust it one more time. Sorry.
Okay, there we go.
All right.
Any better?
Good.
All right, good. Take 3. So what I would say is, I think that people really don't understand how fragile their subscription revenue really is. Especially when they're starting out. And as I said this before, how dependent customer satisfaction really is on a positive recurring billing experience. It's really important. It's a really important touch point with everyone's customers every month. Your customers really want flexibility. They want variety. They expect to have it at this point. They expect to have those options when it comes to making payments. And I would say that your ability to meet or exceed those expectations and provide a positive experience goes a long way to keeping your customers happy and getting that referral that we're all looking for in the SaaS world.
So just make sure I'm hearing you correctly. So I'm focused on my product. I have this incredible product. There's an incredible experience. I have great customer tech support team, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I have great marketing. People just love me. But if you're saying, hey, don't forget about your subscription model and your billing experience, because if that sucks, you possibly could be losing customers.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say when that's a negative experience, it's a really negative experience.
Has a big impact. Okay, cool. That's a good one. That's something I did not know about. Tim, what about you? You have any myths or mistakes people are making out there?
Well, I think the biggest assumption that we typically run into in the marketplace, and again, we're focused on this $2 million size company up through 50 million to 100 million. So the belief is when they're small that they really can manage their business with spreadsheets and they can get by. And it's not until they grow big enough where they have a finance team that then can they afford. And they typically think about it as like these ERP-like solutions, the Zoras of the world, the Intact and NetSuites, and they think that that's where they need to go. Therefore, they think they're content with managing their business and revenues, in spreadsheets. And they're simply not aware that there are alternative, affordable solutions they can implement in 2 weeks that can automate this and set them up, because they're going to find they go out for their first investment. The investor is going to ask them all these same questions about what is your churn, what's your retention, give me your ARR waterfall, and they're not going to have it, or it's going to be very difficult for them to produce on a spreadsheet. And I don't know an investor that likes spreadsheets at all. And then if you get into any kind of due diligence or audits in the future, you're just on your heels for the rest. So really the mistake is keeping their manual processes and spreadsheets and thinking that they just need to hire more finance folks to manage it over time, because they one day will go to that big system that will take care of all this, and that is a major, major mistake.
Got it. So really, like, get those good practices, get those good policies locked down early on, even when you're small, because it'll pay multiple benefits down the road. If you're going to see a VC, you grow, like, you just have those instilled in the culture of your company in a way.
Bingo. Yes.
Cool. That's very valuable. Thank you. Rob, what about you? Like, what's a big assumption, myth, mistake you're seeing out there?
So I think getting your billing process finalized, similar to, staying out of Excel, get your billing process kind of formalized and squared away, so that if someone leaves the company, they know what the process is, or if you need to add new staff, kind of formalize that billing process early on, rather than, I think a lot of founders maybe just throw some invoices. We've seen people even use Excel for invoicing, just kind of throw invoices together to send them out to clients. So, get that kind of squared away and find a good process for that, whatever you choose for your billing platform.
Got it. There's still no questions coming in from the crowd. So either you guys are catching everything very deeply, or people sometimes get a little shy. So I have some bonus questions I kind of wrote down just so I can myself just get some of these answers. So what are some of the pros and cons of using like other app platforms to do the billing for you? So I know I subscribe to an app, AnyDo, but I do it via Google Play. Like, so I don't actually go to AnyDo's website and subscribe. Google Play's handling that subscription for me, and they renew it. So, and I'm assuming Google Play then takes their cut and then pays. And I think Apple Store model is similar, right? Like, where does that fit in? Like, is that a better model? Like, if I don't want to deal with it at all, should I just set my app up that way and not deal with having my own pricing page and my own billing? Like, if you guys have any expertise or thoughts on those models?
I think it's probably most relevant to the B2C market, and I would recommend B2B businesses kind of rely on those services. It can be problematic, inhibit or limit or slow any kind of change. It could be costly down the road. It might be a great way to get your product out initially, but I don't really see that taking off for a B2B type model. Scott might have some better answers on the B2C side.
Yeah, no, I really agree with you, Tim. And the lion's share of our business is not focused on B2C, so don't have too many insights there. But I agree with how you've characterized that.
And I would say it probably makes it a lot harder to switch billing providers later on when you use a service like that. Yeah. It doesn't make it very easy to switch if you wanted to later on.
And then I guess also you're kind of, if you're doing that and you're Google's handling your subscription revenue for the Google customers, and Apple's handling it for your Apple customers, and maybe Amazon's handling it for your Amazon customer base, like, you kind of really now have 3 different subscription revenue management problems instead of just having your one that you run in-house, I could imagine. Interesting. Mm-hmm. Cool. What about, this is kind of an interesting one. It's very topical, because I saw something this week. It was, any online subscription page, like UI or UX do's and don'ts that you see. So earlier this week, I came across, it's an app that is for small businesses, and they had their pricing page, and it was like upfront and honest pricing. And you go to the pricing page, and it says that at the top of the page, and then it has all these sliders and all this, and you play with all these dials, and then it says, fill out this form for a quote. And I'm like, this is not upfront and honest pricing. So are there any like good best practices or do's and don'ts you guys have seen with pricing pages and that piece of this?
More captchas.
You want more?
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, really not our domain expertise. So I can't help you with that one, David.
Got it.
Well, I would say, just as a marketing guy, when you're trying to communicate clearly, you want to think about what is that client experience you're trying to drive? What's going to make for a positive client experience? What are they really looking for? Understand what they're looking for, and then make sure that you are meeting the expectation with the content on your site. and marrying that with what your corporate objective is. I think that it's something that is a little bit different for everybody, but really making sure that you're being customer centric about the strategy that you take with these things is key, in my opinion.
That's a good perspective, I think, with you being the marketing person, right? And coming in that perspective of like, hey, this pricing page, the subscription experience, like this all matters to customers staying customers. Like it's all these touch points along the way. It's a really good point.
I think being able to test things, being able to quickly be able to spin up new pricing models, test them, is also important. You want to be able to do that so that you're landing on the right formula without breaking your accounting organization right in the process.
Got it. Perfect. It doesn't look, if anybody is in the attendees, if you guys don't be shy, please jump in, ask a question. If not, I'll give you guys about 30 seconds to jump in and do that. We are getting close to the top of the hour here. But if nobody has any questions coming in, I think I'm going to give you guys back the last couple of minutes, but I definitely would like some closing thoughts from you guys, and then definitely give us your web address so people can know how to find you. You all be on apps.com, so everybody could find you that way, but your contact information would be great if you wanted to throw that out there for everybody. So we'll try to go RST and then try to go in that order. So Rob, if you wanted kind of your closing thoughts and kind of throw your contact information out there.
Sure. Well, I just wanted to thank you, David, and Intuit for putting this together and inviting us. Just again, if anyone out there is looking for a revenue recognition solution that integrates with QuickBooks Online, Prorata could be a great solution for you. You really need to, if you're not tracking revenue recognition, you need to be doing so. And if you're doing it in Excel, you need to get out of Excel. So our web address is www.prorata.com. And from there you can get more information and then contact us, and we can tell you a little bit more about our solution.
Lift your shirt up a little bit so they can see your.
There you go.
There, now they can see it. All right. Perfect. And Scott, any closing thoughts?
Sure. So I would just say that, first off, thanks. I'll echo what Rob just said. Thanks, David, for inviting us to be a part of the panel, and thanks, Tim, for your insights. I think if you are a rapidly growing subscription business company, Fusebill has I think a really small footprint, high power, very flexible platform that we'd love to talk to you about. If if you find yourself in a position where your manual processes are slowing you down and costing you money, I think that we'd love to have a chat with you and see what we can do for you. Our website is www.fusebill.com, and thanks a lot for listening.
And Tim, you're on.
Great. Well, thanks, David, for having us today. It was a great discussion. We've been in business since 2009. We have over 325 customers. 95% of them are using QuickBooks, very steep in experience in QuickBooks Online and QuickBooks Desktop. And we can get you out of that spreadsheet hell when you're ready. And love to talk to you and see if we can't help you out. Our website is www.SaaSOptics.com. SaaSoptics.com.
Got it. Perfect. Thank you very much. I was just going to also mention all these guys I've seen at all the big accounting shows here and there. They go to QuickBooks Connect. So if you're a developer, you're in this space, you're an Intuit developer, come to these conferences, come to these shows. You can go and talk to these guys face to face and start building those relationships, because I think obviously, as you've seen here, they have a wealth of expertise around this, and there's probably a lot of mistakes you may be making with your own company and your own app when it comes to your subscription billing. So definitely reach out to these guys, stay connected. They're right there. They're in our space, right? They're in our backyard. So utilize them as an ally as we all move forward on this journey. And with that said, gentlemen, thank you very, very much for joining us today on this Friday. This will be up on YouTube for history. So with that, let's sign out, and I'll see everybody next week.
Great.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye.
Thank you.